Thanks for tuning into our seller interview series. Up today, we've got a global e-commerce business for sale in the apparel niche and on the Shopify platform. The brand is fast-growing and targets an enthusiastic and easy-to-find demographic. The site makes just under $32,000 a month in net profit. The listing number for this is 40235. Now, we do these interviews to give potential buyers more information about both the sellers and the sites they're looking to purchase. We hope these insights are helpful for you in making your buying decision. We've got the seller Gary and his business partner Michael on the line with us today to go through the business and cover everything from niche selection to traffic and monetization and ultimately how they grew this business. Thanks for coming on, fellas.
No problem.
No problem. Good to be here.
Cool. So I'm going to do a quick summary. The site and the business was built in May 2014. That's pretty new. We're going to talk about that a bit more and how you guys got to scale relatively quickly. Monthly revenue is about $180,000 a month. Expenses come out to $149,000 a month. And net profit is at just about $31,000 a month. And that's over the last 12 months on average. Paid views you're getting between 500 and 600,000 page views per month right now. So if you could, one of the questions I would have in listening to this and checking out the business is how the heck did you guys do this so quickly? So can you tell us a little bit about your background in kind of building and running websites and brands and online businesses and that kind of thing?
Sure. We've been involved in the tech space for quite some time through the world of startups, through funding startups, through investing, through B2B play, enterprise, and just the business world in general. And we've had quite a lot of experience, particularly over the last few years, in conversion optimization, advertising strategies, acquisitions, everything from funnels, lead management, through to paid traffic, through to display, etc. And so we've built up quite a cache of knowledge around basically how to build businesses online, more typically focused on B2B and enterprise sector. So, Michael, who's sitting next to me, always says, a business can be an overnight success to somebody else, but it really was 10 years in the making. And I think this is probably a testament to that, where we put a basic plan together and we were aggressive about testing whether or not we could make it work. From our perspective, there's a paid advertising strategy, amongst other things. And, we sort of bet big to start it off and to see what we could generate, to gain some learnings. And the ducks lined up and it worked.
Yeah, I think I'll just add to that. We are big believers in sort of build, test, measure and fail fast. So we don't do this thing of build something for 6 months, then test it and see if it works and keep sort of pushing it along. We're very much we have an idea. We believe it'll work. Let's test it in the market. If early signs are good, then keep going. If early signs are bad, shut it down quickly. So we've had plenty of failures that we've shut down quickly. This one just actually certainly beat our expectations. This was really, we were experimenting with something else, and this just came from that. It's actually been quite an exciting ride, but we haven't done anything that unusual except just transfer our skills that we've been doing in B2B or enterprise sort of markets into trying something that was full consumer, full online, full outsourced.
Yeah, it's interesting. We talked a little bit before we got on, and I said, some people that are listening to this, especially if they build sites themselves, are like, oh my God, how in 14 months did they build this up to, doing $180,000 a month in business? And we discussed how it's all relative, right? Like, you guys are used to the B2B space or, more enterprise space. And so from that perspective, the business is still tiny, right? But like from the other perspective, they're like, oh my God, this is amazingly big. So yeah, that's definitely all relative. One of the things I like about this business, and I'm going to go a little farther now and say that, yes, it's an apparel business, but you specifically focus on kind of the gamer space. And one of the things I love about that space is it's a very passionate market, right? So they're really into their games and they want, game apparel. They want game accessories. They want to show off, what they're all about. And so that's one of the reasons I like it. You like to get into passionate niches. Why did you guys choose this? Were you guys gamers yourselves and found something lacking? Was it, how did you find the market?
It's really funny. So the gaming niches that we follow, I more or less know nothing about. Gary knows a little bit about. We're both sort of quite busy and don't really play games and probably haven't for like the last 10 years since, we've more or less been busy with, life and work. And for us, it actually wasn't about this particular niche. It was about what our research told us was a small niche, but certainly a large niche. So it was a really defined and narrow piece, but it was large enough on a global scale that we knew that we could, I guess, have enough room to test something in. When we originally started with this, it was just like it's really some quick, like using Facebook graph search, that sort of thing, going, how many people are in this niche? How many people are in the target that we're going to look at? And we went, all right, this one, yeah, it's got enough people, enough to test. So let's go for it. And that's sort of where it came from. Like it's sort of, we still sort of pat ourselves on the back when we see it is a gamer niche, but we sort of pat ourselves on the back or smile at each other when we're walking down the street and see a new, billboard or a sort of bus station poster for a new version of a game that we, happen to sort of work within that niche.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you guys got into the gaming niche, because generally, if a couple of guys are telling me they got into gaming, I'd base it on not on like this, crazy kind of like strategic market positioning, and more like, I'm a gamer, I can do this. So it's kind of interesting. Normally, like those kind of niches where like very strategic are things you like are not male dominated kind of areas anyway. Like they're kind of like the random niches, but it's interesting that you guys got into this based on where you saw the market and where you saw some opportunity. And clearly there is some, because the business has taken off and done really well. And that tells me a little bit about why you got into this. Like, what strategic opportunity, or like, why did you see a hole in this market? Like, there wasn't a lot of competition, or was the competition doing really well? Like, what are the determinants for you to get into a market?
It's actually a really interesting question, Justin. Truth be told, it was actually less about the market and less about the business in that market, and more about understanding e-commerce, truthfully. So we decided to set up this business. And can I tell you, based on the question you asked previously, and to your listeners, the amount of money that we've spent on ideas, whether it's in or outside of e-commerce, and bet wrong, still based on a strategic decision, important to know that this is one that ended up getting right, like really right. But if you did it as an aggregate of all the ideas that we've tested over time, it's still a small percentage that wins. So coming back to what we were trying to do and why we chose the market, we didn't really look at the competition. We didn't look at the opportunity with respect to an emotional side, or the opportunity from, well, do we like it? It was a numbers game, and we wanted to test e-commerce. We wanted to see if we could apply all our skills towards an e-commerce play, what would happen. And we had tested a few, and this is the one that gave us the most promising click-through and the most promising impression averages and all the other elements of analytics that we look at, which gave us the confidence to go and spend big on testing, and we did.
I think it's important to note it is, and I've heard this a lot, it's important to really like the area you're in, like to either be a part of a community or to understand it. And for us, it's not that we're passionate about the niche, it's that we're passionate about numbers. So for us, like the excitement actually comes from numbers. So from looking at audience size and understanding market size, understanding opportunities, that's actually where the passion is. And this just happened to be a niche that sort of ticked the boxes and went, all right, this is one we can test on. That's really where it's at.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I'm actually not like, you have to only get into business if you're passionate about the niche or industry. Like, I don't believe that at all. I don't think that's true. I think a lot of times you can get into the business and you're going to find things in your business that you are passionate about driving, and for you guys, it might be numbers, or it might be paid traffic strategies and trying to make those work and testing through it. For others, it may be brand ambassadorship or whatever, but you're going to find something in your business that you are passionate about. So you don't have to be like, I want to get out of bed every day and absolutely work on this, whatever product it is. You're going to find things in your business that I think will work. Let me get into why you guys are selling this site. That's going to be a question that buyers will have. You've got great trajectory. The business has definitely shown some early promise. Why are you selling this business?
It's a great question. As you said previously, some people think of this as a big business, and some people would look at this and go, well, it's a small business. And we truthfully look at the other things that we are working on currently as much, much bigger plays in the world of tech and the world of startups, and have far greater potential long-term globally. And so we look this year at reducing any ancillary or unnecessary, I shouldn't say unnecessary, but businesses that were not going to contribute to our core 5-year plan as a business, and e-commerce didn't fit in. So
it's a distraction on our future. The truth is we're running 4 main businesses. We've sold one of them. This one's listed on the market and another one's listed in a different B2B marketplace, not e-commerce. But the truth is we want to focus on one core business that's our plan at the moment. And this is unfortunately on the chopping block for us.
Cool. So, well, that's helpful for buyers too, because they want to make sure that you're not going to be competing in the same niche, 2 months out. So they're not going to be targeting it. If you're getting out of e-commerce, I think that keeps it open for the buyer, and they've got some room to grow without dealing with the seller breathing down their neck with a competing business. I think you met with Joe and Mike in Manila, I think, right, recently, and I think they were talking about, we're talking about being customers, or at least testing through being customers for your other business. So yeah, it's interesting. There's lots
that's right. I think we've still got to email them to sign them up.
Yeah. There's something going on over there. You guys can plug it if you want, or if you don't, that's fine too. But yeah.
No, that's all right. We'll stay on point.
Cool.
That's cool.
It's interesting. Let's talk about the history of this business. Now, you built it in May 2014, which is just a little over a year ago. What was the kind of early trajectory, the first couple of weeks and months? Was it like a quick success? Was there like a pre-launch strategy that it went into it? Can you tell me a little bit about how you guys launched?
No, there wasn't a pre-launch strategy. I'd love to tell you that like a corporate, we spent months doing pre-strategy, doing pre-launch, all this sort of stuff. Truth be told, we'd identified what we wanted to do. We identified we wanted to hit e-commerce, and we wanted to do it based on numbers. And Michael and I ran a hackathon for the weekend between the two of us. We're really great. We think we're really great outsourcing using Upwork, Elance, Odesk, Googling for answers. We literally locked ourselves in a room for 2 to 3 days. We use publicly available softwares and tools, growth hack tools, all these sorts of things. Put it together in the space of 3 days, I think. And we ran some initial tests with our ads team and our traffic team. And the initial numbers looked to us like we could improve those conversions. And so, truth be told, we were looking at the data like every half an hour. I mean, we were obsessing over the traffic, obsessing over the conversion rates. And can I tell you what was quite interesting was, we would see the dings coming through. We set up like a little bell, like a digital bell every time a sale came through. And we're smiling like, school kids every time we hear this ding, every sort of hour as a sale would come through. And then by, I think, the end of first week, it was almost like every 10 minutes. And by the end of the second week, it was like every minute. And we'd be sitting in meetings where, for our other business, we're sitting in a meeting for a $50,000 deal. But yet we've heard this ding like 10 times for like a $35 sale. And, we're just over the moon. The rush it still is, quite exciting. So that first 2 weeks, that's really what we did.
That's really funny. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a movie where it's about the porn business, but it was actually about the financial transactions in porn. And the guy had set something up. Like, he basically was like the PayPal for the porn industry. And
I've seen that.
Oh, so funny, right? Sets it up, starts dinging, like every couple of minutes, and then it's just boom, boom, every second. He's like, oh my God, I think I'm on to something here. It's really funny.
The problem was that movie didn't end up so well for him. So.
Oh, yeah, not so great. Well, hopefully you'll have a slightly different story in your future. But
the first few weeks were certainly stressful. We're actually quite good at initial sprints. The stresses came because it was stuff like, we're in Australia, so our time zone is, although the website sells globally, our time zone isn't, certainly a match to where a majority of the sales are. And so we do things like I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and just check my phone to see how numbers are tracking, or see this or see that. And then, as really thankfully PayPal, such a great supporter of businesses.
This is a joke, by the way.
Yeah, that is a joke. They sort of, something starts happening. So all of a sudden an account starts getting money into it. What do? They think, oh no, some business, it's making money, quick, shut them down and ask them questions, sort of thing. So, I remember there was this one morning I woke up at 4, looked at my email, saw there was an email from PayPal going, please, we've noticed some unusual activity on your account, i.e. there's money coming into it. So we've disabled your account until you answer some questions. And and
then you try and call them and it's like, oh, sorry, we don't have support in your time zone.
Yeah.
So it's sort of that funny thing. You fix things, but then, for the next sort of 3 weeks, I'm waking up at 4 a.m. going, I wonder if PayPal's shut us down.
Yeah.
Shut down the payment gateway again. And, thankfully we sort of figured out early on, I guess, thankfully, that, sort of spread your risk with payment processes as well. So, we used Stripe, we tested Braintree, used PayPal. Actually, at one point we had 2 PayPal accounts set up, registered to the same business, so we could switch between them if this issue ever happened again. And those sort of things are fun and exciting. I must say, we certainly in the last probably 9 months don't wake up at 4 a.m. to check our email to see how the website's doing anymore. But So that initial rush is good, but it's stressful.
I hear you regarding PayPal. We recently had a problem with that ourselves where they, I don't know if Joe told you about this, but we were like, what's going on? So they requested all this information. I think it had to do with all the refunds we were doing via deposit. So we're just doing a ton of refunds. And they said that wasn't an issue. But anyway, we sent them the stuff and right away they were like, no, everything's fine. And we're like, well, you totally freaked us out. And then you just get back to us, oh, you're good. No problem.
Yeah, for us it wasn't refunds. It was they're like, oh, you've got money coming into your account.
You're making too much money. There's something wrong here. Yeah.
It's sort of you speak to the customer service and they know it's silly. And they I remember when, I understand. This will be cleared. I just unfortunately cannot give you a timeline for when that will happen. I understand and I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do.
And you're like, we are losing money minute by minute with you not letting us take payments. It's very frustrating. And, you're continuously spending on a whole range of other things. So anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. These companies like Stripe are trying to fix that problem. And I'm sure that whenever you have those kinds of major issues, people want to pay me, I want to get paid, and you're stopping us. That's a problem, right? That's a big problem to solve. So I'm sure some super smart tech companies with lots of funding are working on it right now. Having redundancies, I think, with things like PayPal and Stripe as backup, I can see how that would help other people in their business, people listening to this, and probably you for future businesses. But what else with this business in particular did you find that worked out really well? That's something that our listeners can apply to their businesses, or that you can apply to future businesses that you build?
Look, there's a couple of key things. I think the first thing is leverage the publicly available knowledge and tools and systems that are there. So, we hear about people that go out there and build bespoke websites. They'll get a web designer and spend $100,000 on a website for e-commerce or their brand, but they've not yet generated a single sale. And so our view is very much use whatever is available on the freest plan you can get or the cheapest and run it, break it, and then that will be your measure for, or your signal to go out there and, upgrade or find better systems. So certainly, even today, this business we're talking about runs off tools and systems that are largely, available to everybody. In fact, they all are.
Yeah.
So that's probably the first thing. The second thing is, we like to look at numbers. Some people don't like to look at numbers. The business is in a situation where, in fact, you don't really need to look at the data as much as we did in the early days. It's sort of now really working on autopilot, but having an appreciation for numbers and, wanting to sort of understand how the business works. I always like to tell people that's a good idea. Be sort of passionate to some extent. MJ?
Yeah, I think, so I'll just expand a bit on tools. So we don't custom build. We use tools. We don't pay year up front for anything. We're only on at most month to month with things. And we don't sign year-long contracts for month to month. No matter how compelling they are, we just have this view of there is new cool stuff that gets better literally coming out every day, and don't sort of close yourself off of being stuck in some sort of legacy platform just because you signed a contract for 12 months. I think that's really important. And leveraging tools there are companies that might spend $1 billion building software tools that they're putting out there for $30 a month. Heck, let them spend their $1 billion and just pay $30 to use it. There's no issue with that. So we use one of the e-commerce platforms, Shopify. Really easy to build on, to get free templates. Now we spent quite a bit of money building a template that we could sort of A/B test and know our conversions. But initially it was free templates. There are stacks and stacks and stacks of plugins, that some that we knew made sense, some that we read about that you either get on a 3-day trial or a 14-day trial or a 30-day trial. So you can just put these really powerful plugins into your system and see, conversion uplifts or no change or downward trends, where even if you're using Magento or something else like that, it's all custom builds still, or a lot of it's still custom builds. So we're just why would you do that when, sort of your speed to market with platforms that exist is literally clicking a button.
I totally agree with you, especially with regards to Shopify. If you're just getting started, why spend a ton of money on a custom or bespoke website? That's ridiculous, honestly. And starting with something like Shopify, that's awfully cheap. Now, it gets much more expensive as you are successful, right? So they get to, I guess, make more money as you make more money. And at some point, maybe you get to the point where you do want a custom site or something, but by then you've got the money to do it, right? You're fine. Okay, yes, I've got my business doing quite well. I'll reinvest in my business. if you want to, or you stay on the platform for ease of use. And honestly, in your situation today, having it on Shopify is much easier because it's easier to have someone buy it and take it over because they understand the Shopify platform. So
yeah, that's right. So Shopify is really good. We're actually really fortunate. I hadn't actually thought about this fact before. So Shopify plans, no matter which plan you're on these days, you sign up and you have to give them a percentage of your sales, which is sort of how Shopify works. But when we signed up to Shopify, we're fortunately on a legacy system where the plan we're on now, I think they now charge 0.5% of revenue is you pay them monthly. And we don't actually pay that because we signed up before that was even in place. So we're on a fixed, I think it's like $180 a month or something. We pay for the platform and that's it, plus any add-ons that we use from their app store. So that's really good. Even they were actually trying to convince us to sign up to their experts plan that was $1,000 a month. And again, they wanted a 12-month contract and we just went, but why would we do that? What do we get extra? And they're like, well, you can talk to us. We're like,
we're happy not to talk.
Yeah, we're happy to talk to ourselves.
Yeah, I can hire or pay Shopify experts that can come in and work on your platform and know it better than I do, and probably better than your staff does anyway.
Correct.
Let's talk a little bit about, so that's what did work. And I think there's some great nuggets for people to take and apply to their businesses or this business if they end up purchasing it. But like, what did you try with this business that just failed miserably? That you were like, especially one that like you were like, yes, I think I got a winner here, and nope, didn't work.
Yeah, so we've done a few tests where we thought, oh, look, aren't we so clever? Let's try this whole range or this product or that product, or let's, open up the niche to a side niche, that sort of thing. And like, it's sort of funny, you look, although it doesn't sound long, with 12, 13, 14 months later, we're still, selling more or less the same thing we were when we started. And more or less anything else we tried, we didn't get such great success. Like there was, I think at one point we went, we're so clever, we'll add 500 other products to the system and just be this huge store of all these products. And, we had those running and burnt a bit of cash trying to market those and just went, all right, let's sort of go back to what we know. Let's try and not be too smart about this. And I think that's sort of the big lesson. In saying that though, we haven't really tested anything new since about March this year. We just sort of we'd more or less let it run on autopilot since then, which was sort of our last round of sort of downgrading things to what we thought was just core product, and we'd uploaded a new sort of converting template to the system, and we've just gone, just let it run, and it's more or less, run like that since then.
Yeah, it has.
Which has been quite nice.
Let's get into the traffic and earnings on this site a bit. Can you give me just kind of a general breakdown of like what percentage is organic, what percentage is referral, direct or social, that kind of thing?
It's a good question. We don't look at the data daily anymore, like we used to in the first few weeks or the first few months. I would say a good chunk of the traffic is paid traffic, social paid traffic. We have a small percentage that is organic or direct referral. And those are really the two channels.
Yeah, we really don't focus on the organic at all. And that's probably just it's because it's something, it's not saying we measure, we're short-term thinkers like that. So like by good chunk, we're talking like 95% is highly targeted paid traffic. So we can actually know on a day-to-day basis, we're going to get roughly this many visitors because we're spending this much money.
Gotcha. So we're looking at primarily paid traffic. I know a lot of that comes via Facebook, so that's been a big winner for you guys, and we're going to talk about that in a bit. And, I think we have a lot of buyers too that are interested in paid traffic sites. I think that, and looking at it, you guys are ranked for some organic keywords. I think there is an organic aspect to this that could be successful if that was something that someone wanted to buy this for. It's got a great name for the site. I love the business name, and I think that there's real opportunity to grow it organically, even if that hasn't been a focus for you guys. It's slower, but it's like more slower, kind of long term. There's a brandability aspect here that as a content guy, I really like. Like I could really run with this from a content perspective, even though you guys haven't done a ton of that so far.
Yeah. No, look, we don't know much about content, and we certainly, with the organic side of things, it is a massive opportunity for somebody just to dive in, look at the numbers and go, oh my God, what an opportunity just to exploit that area. And with respect to the paid traffic, I mean, one thing that I should say is we've got up to the point, I think, now where there is so much value in the database that we have and the ability to remarket, for those that understand that part of online, where for a new person coming into this particular category to try and do it from a cold start, would be so challenging to sort of meet the numbers, because we literally, if I was to talk about the way we've seen a lot of our success over the last, since we turned it on autopilot, we have so much data, so much to remarket to, so much to retarget. It's just unbelievable. And that, I think, is a huge, it creates defensibility for the business as well, but it's also a huge opportunity to go and exploit, because people can then buy traffic much, much cheaper than if anybody else was to try and come in.
Yeah, it's a good barrier to entry, or a moat around the castle, as we like to call it. But yeah, I think that's helpful for a buyer. They know that they'll be less likely to deal with new competition coming in, because they're not going to get the traffic nearly as cheap. When it comes to purchases, now, you said that you would try to expand the product through a bunch of other products, and some of those just didn't work, and you realized, why don't we just stick with kind of our core offering? Like, how much of your sales come from that one core offer? Like, how many SKUs, make up what percentage of sales?
Yeah, it's really simple, but it's something like, I think, 3 of the products. So SKUs aside, because there's color and size variants, but 3 of the main SKUs really account for something like 80% of the sales.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, you've got a couple of core products that are the main drivers. Let's talk about the stability of earnings. So is this something that you can watch on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, or is it more kind of a quarterly, like see where your numbers are quarterly? Like, is it bouncing around a lot monthly? I know that has a tendency to happen with paid traffic.
Yeah, it can happen, and different, at the end of the day, we don't really understand the algorithms of the advertising placement companies. So the truth is, who really knows when they're adjusting things? I'll be fair, we probably look at it, if not every day, we look at every second day, because we've got like Shopify has a great mobile app that tells you where your revenue's at for the day. So it's really sort of easy to, like, whilst you're eating, a taco at lunch, to sort of open the app and go, oh yeah, it's at, X $1,000. So you notice things like every day. I know, like, if I wake up and I look at it at 8 a.m. and it doesn't say $2,000, there might be a problem, that sort of thing. So that's sort of, if it says only $1,000, you go, is there a problem?
Yeah.
Yeah, but look, when Michael says, look at it daily, it's like a 30-second glance.
Yeah, it's a glance.
Yeah.
Just
no,
the sales.
The sales numbers, it's not like let's dive in and have a look. And if it is a little bit lower than what we'd expect, sometimes, there's no real reason. It's just, because...
Yeah, or we forgot to turn a widget on or a widget off. That
sort
of
or
thing.
Something like that. But, when we look at stability, I mean, if anybody, pays the deposit and has a look at the numbers, which I'm sure, they're welcome to do, they'll see the stability over the course of the last year. And the variance has been, far less than what you would expect on an e-commerce site.
It's interesting. You guys keep talking about checking the numbers, and I'm with you on this one. In fact, like you check it, it's like 30 seconds or whatever, but my problem is I'll go back and check it like 5 minutes later, right? So, and especially when it's new or whatever, when something's happening in the business and you just keep going, check 5 minutes, 30 minutes goes by, you're checking it again.
Yeah, I think for the first few weeks we were definitely like that, like I said, but I think you get to a point where it's almost like that desensitivity. It's like, okay, so now it's,
the new normal. Yeah.
It is the new normal. It's not as much of a... and I look at it far less than Michael. I'll probably look at it once a week, if that, and go, oh, okay, cool.
We also, the other bit of work that probably does happen on a weekly basis is I look after the accounts and we use proper accounting software. So while we outsource all the actual entry work, like we've got a bookkeeper that does it, I'll just reconcile where are we at on ad spend for the week, sort of thing. So probably say that weekly.
Let's get into the business a little bit. And we probably should have gone over this a little earlier, but overall, it's an e-commerce business. You guys are manufacturing in China. You're shipping to a global audience, but I think that a good portion of that audience is US based, right? But you do ship all over the world. Do you have other resellers? Tell me a little bit about, exactly what the manufacturing process is like what employees and contractors you currently have on the team, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I won't talk necessarily manufacturing process, but business process wise, it's part of an ethos, but that aside, it's completely cash flow positive. So we sell something online, we collect 100% of that money up front. PayPal will take its couple of points, or Stripe will take its couple of points as a processing fee. At the end of each day, the orders are batched by, our sort of ordering system that's just a bit of plug-in software. It sends it directly to the supplier, says, here's today's list of orders, here's the items. They get that, they receive that. They start manufacturing to that order or start mostly packing to that order. They've got stocks on hand. Then they send us a bill for the deposit. Usually we get that bill a day later, sometimes 2 days if it's like a weekend. And then once we get that deposit, our customer service guy will actually reconcile the deposit request. Our customer service guy will reconcile if there's been any emails through from customers saying, can I change it from a small to a medium or that sort of thing. We'll update the supplier. The supplier will update their order and pack process accordingly. We'll confirm. They'll fully pack everything. They will then send us photos of all the packages. I know, like, it's sort of a bit of a joke because, you're not going to count literally hundreds of packages from a photo and check them, but they'll count all those. They will send us a spreadsheet of all the tracking numbers. We will then send us a bill for the balance. We pay them the balance. Our customer service guy then just takes that file of all the tracking numbers, uploads it into Shopify, and that's sort of done.
So the apparels, you've got a couple of customer service agents that are working for you online, and they will handle all the orders and handle any requests or I got the wrong size or color or whatever, and they help with that. And then you're effectively what people call is drop shipping. So you're drop shipping from the manufacturer. You don't have a warehouse in the U.S., is that right? You're drop shipping directly from China?
Yeah, that's right. So staffing-wise, there's 2 staff that essentially have full-time jobs with us that work different time zones, and that's just to cover sort of email queue or customer service queue for a large chunk of the day or the week. But yeah, there's quite a bit of automation, and then it's liaisons between the supplier and our customer service staff.
So why would you guys, you only have a couple of products that are kind of your primary drivers. Why would you guys not just have those manufactured in China and shipped to a warehouse in the U.S.? I understand it's a balance between cash flow, right? Making sure you're keeping your cash flow and not dumping on inventory. But wouldn't you save quite a bit or get like a benefit of shipping if you were in the U.S.?
Yeah. We would save an absolute fortune. There's no doubt about it. Can I tell you, we actually went through the process of uncovering how much money we would actually save and how much more money we would make if we did that. We even had some software that we plug into Shopify that will do a projection for you based on your history. It'll tell you exactly how much you need to order and ship and stock. We spoke to...
what software is that? That sounds cool.
I'll let you know. I can't remember. You just search the Shopify App Store and like projection. You just type projection or, inventory management or whatever. We had conversations with, the guys at a ship station, I think it was, or Shipwire.
Shipwire, we're using them,
Yeah, one of those sort of companies. So we went through the process and then we sort of said, all right, so we know how much more money we'll make, but then we also know that it's going to end up chewing up more of our time in having to manage that process.
And cash, right?
Like not just cash, but also making sure that, if the shipment doesn't arrive on time or there was whatever else, then fine, we'll make so much money, it doesn't matter. But at the same time, it's still time.
We're running quite a low stress model at the moment. And if we were to pre-order product and ship it from China, sit in a warehouse in the US, sure, that would be really it'd be great. But it's just that little bit of extra thinking, do we need insurance on our product? Or, what happens when it runs low? I don't know.
And so we sort of said, you know what, if it was our core only business, there is absolutely no doubt, and we've spoken to many people about this, we would manufacture and sit it there. But because we have so many other competing distractions for our time, we said, we just have to let it run as simply as possible and focus our energy on other businesses.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So, I mean, it's important, I guess, also remember that this business is only 14 months old or whatever. So if you've been doing this 4 or 5 years, there's no way you wouldn't have transitioned over to that model. That would have absolutely happened. But because it's new, you've got you do have to invest the cash flow up front to get all the inventory over and the hassle. There's a learning curve that comes with that as well. Even if you have other people helping you with it, I see now a bit more why that hasn't happened. If it were 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, and you still hadn't done that, I'd be like, what are you guys doing? You're killing me.
Justin, truthfully, at the 6-month mark, we actually went through the process of looking at that going, we could uncover so much more profit. Yeah. And it was at that point. So we would have done it 6 months in had we had no other focus. But the other businesses have a greater pull for our attention. So,
Gotcha. Yeah. All right, well, let's get into the opportunities a little bit. We've kind of covered some of them already, especially with this issue, I think. But if you were looking to buy this business and you wanted kind of a slow growth model, you wanted I plan on keeping this business for, let's say, at least 3 to 5 years. What can I do to make sure I'm getting my year-over-year return with nothing too risky?
Well, first things first, you would do nothing. And you get your return with nothing too risky. That's probably the easiest answer. With respect to opportunities, things that we've looked at, look, we're targeting a particular niche. We have an incredible database. We have a huge social following, well over 100,000. We have the ability to, this captive audience that we could certainly market a whole range of other things, which, we sort of pegged up on the whiteboard and said, one day, if we're still here. We looked at a variety of other ad channels. We looked, and there's certainly opportunity there with.
Yeah, you know what it is. There's if you split it off into cost saving and profit making. So cost saving, I don't know, we've probably just learned some lessons from you, which is, hey, watch your trends, manufacture, put it in, shipwires or whatever, wherever, sort of your markets are. That's probably one area. If we actually spent a bit more time actually working on the business rather than just leaving it to, sort of $4 and $5 an hour staff, you'd probably uncover a bunch of cost savings as well. Their time aside, because, they're not particularly expensive, but, they're just following processes that have been in place for, sort of 12 months. The profit-making opportunities, there's this one really cool thing, Facebook has it, which is you can do this marketing of your product to similar audiences. So What's really interesting is if you think we have, call it 100,000 profiles, Facebook profiles of people that we know will instantly buy product from a first visit to a website. So you can use that data and then go, great, give me, I want to advertise product Y to an audience that is similar to these people. And then that's part of the cool thing of advertising sort of networks is they can look at the profile of, someone like Gary and go, all right, he's this age, he lives in this time zone, he probably has this wealth, find people who have similar features to Gary in their, sort of profile indicators and push ads to them.
Yeah.
So that's extremely powerful and valuable, of course.
Another thing I think is really interesting is in the Facebook space. Now, you can do that with the paid traffic, but they're also in the gamer niche, there are just a gazillion Facebook pages with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of likes that are really active. And so if you could set up deals with them where you're able to advertise on their pages, I think there might be, just on a side deal, or end up ultimately buying those Facebook pages, there could be value there too, because now you're running Facebook pages that already have a baked-in audience.
It's a really good point. We were approached about 4 or 5 months ago by a fairly large review site in this particular niche, and they're like, we could do some sort of affiliate or reseller or promote you or blog about you, and we sort of brushed it off and said, sounds like too much work, and I don't really know how that works, and then we sort of parked.
All right, guys, so we've talked about some of the opportunities I think that are available in this business. We've been talking about it basically throughout the whole call. Let's talk about some of the risks. So if you are a new buyer looking to potentially buy this business, what are some of the concerns you might have? What are some of the concerns you as a seller, if you were going to keep the business over the next 2 to 5 years, what are the concerns you would have, that kind of thing?
Look, I think putting ourselves on the other side of the fence, as a buyer, the one question would probably be, is it sustainable? Can we maintain this level of revenue? Based on the way that we're marketing, and can we continue doing that? Truth be told, the answer is yes.
I'm just going to jump in. One of the big things I think I would say about this business is the truth is someone, maybe not smarter, but we'll say smarter than us, is going to come along, gobble this up, and they'll have more time to spend and actually see the opportunity and unlock the opportunity. The only thing I want to say to that person, if you're listening right now, is don't change it from day one. Let it sit for even 2 or 3 weeks or even 4 weeks, just to understand what it's doing before you change anything, just so you know what your benchmark is and you'll really see the effects of whatever changes you do, if that makes sense. So just let it sit, think of some ideas, look at some things, but just let it sit because it is paid, most of the traffic's paid. And sorry, when I am talking about this, I'm talking about changes to any ad sort of stuff or shipping or manufacturing. What you want to do is really understand what it does, because if you turn ads off, then the traffic turns off, if that makes sense. So if you advertise to the wrong group, they're not going to buy anything. So just sit and look at what it's doing right now and understand that for at least a couple of weeks before you do any changes. That's probably what I would say is a big risk. I know whenever I get into anything, I just go bang, 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 test, test, test. With this business, I think we've already been through, I guess, that pain. So just a risk is changing too many things too quickly or changing anything too quickly. Just don't jump in to change anything too quickly. That's probably what I would say.
I think maybe holding off on any changes for 3 months would be pretty reasonable. And if you are going to make some changes, make them add-ons or bolt-ons. Don't make them messing with the core, like, the core marketing strategy with Facebook or anything like that. Make them in addition to. So you might be perfectly fine starting some content marketing, because that's not necessarily going to hurt any of the paid Facebook stuff. It's completely separate. Whereas if I start messing with the ads as they are right now, or the ad process, then that's going to hurt the bottom line, or it could.
And the reason why I said it is sustainable is that being paid traffic, you do have ultimate control over your traffic, which is, really a nice luxury to have. And you have so many moving levers if you wanted to use that power that, as Michael said, absolutely let it do its thing. But fundamentally, you have the control over the traffic, which results in sales. So,
yeah, I wouldn't leave it for 3 months. Like, if you're going to buy this, really take the opportunity and look at things and do play with things. Just leave it for like a month and don't change anything. And then what is actually good is most times when people test things, and we do in other businesses, you make one change and you watch it for a week or a month and see what the impact of that change is. There is a high enough volume of traffic with this that you can generally tell in a 24-hour cycle what the effect of a change is. So if you're doing a website tweak, or you're changing the color of a button or something like that, when you do get around to doing that, the good thing is you only have to leave it for a day to see the impact, because the traffic is fairly consistent. You can see those sort of changes. Is that sort of positive? Risks, I don't know, like what we've done is very low risk. So jumping in and probably pre-ordering all the product and getting it manufactured and shipped to the States is probably a bit of a risk until, you're comfortable doing that. So I wouldn't jump in and do that. Also, like, we tend to think it's sort of low risk because the supplier is always kept on their toes. There's always more orders coming through every day, so they have to keep producing high quality goods and shipping very quickly. Otherwise, they're not going to get more orders. So sort of having it in that way means that the suppliers, can potentially be at risk of fearing, if they don't keep producing great results on a day-by-day basis, we can go elsewhere. So, I guess that'll be how I'll justify not manufacturing large quantities.
I think you're right, but I think it is low risk if you do the cash outlay and you ship it to your warehouse in the U.S. I mean, there are more moving parts, which it's clearly going to add risk. But there's some opportunity there too, right? And there always is. With risk comes opportunity. I think a bigger risk and potentially bigger opportunity would be where you have someone manufacturing the product specifically for you. So you're going over there, you're picking the particular things that you want, and they're making it to spec for you. I mean, that's huge hassle, and I think even bigger risk, but again, even more opportunity there as well.
Yeah, listen, just a note on that. It's not totally off-the-shelf product. We're just doing high enough volumes that the supplier treats it as off-the-shelf products, if that makes sense. So the supplier's taking the advanced risk by manufacturing products in advance and leaving them there ready to pick and pack for us. A lot of it now does have our own labels on it and that sort of thing. But, so we get a little bit of input. Hey, why don't you do this and, do that in terms of that process. But I wouldn't go complete custom, bespoke this, bespoke that. Like, it's just, I think that's a bit of a risk. I think something to also look out for is there are new opportunities in terms of advertising or even, product placement coming up all the time. Like, we're down under, we're in Australia, so we don't get access to all the advertising platforms that everyone else does. But, there's opportunities that we just really haven't explored, like Instagram and, sort of referral marketing and affiliate marketing and all those sort of things that, like, there's all the opportunities to test. And I guess it's probably something that someone should be aware of and go, oh, what your sort of new platforms are there that I can look at and jump into sort of when they become available.
I think you guys stick with what you know. So you're a paid traffic guy. So, of course, you're doing paid traffic, and that's been kind of your baby. But I think that, people that are good at setting up affiliate programs and affiliate marketing, I think there's huge opportunity here. I think the brand really lends itself to it. I think there are a whole bunch of other people in the space that would like to get involved in this and that would like to be affiliates for this. So, I think there is opportunity there, especially for someone who has experience as an affiliate marketer and setting those up. They could come in there and make that work, I think. Tell me a little bit about, let's get into, the work required. So I know you have 2 staff that handle customer support and then you hire as needed, piece by piece from Odesk or whatever, to do some of the additional stuff. Like, what does your day look like day to day? Like, what kind of work do you do?
Yeah, I'll talk week to week rather than day to day. So we've got two staff. They're not like salaried staff. They're contractors through a company. So we get a bill for them once a month and pay their bill once a month. We've got a bunch of contractors that certainly the buyer's welcome to keep contracting with, that we've found on Odesk and Elance, and we've more or less left them all on Odesk and Elance, or it's called Upwork now, and pay them through that. We do, as I said, sort of an accounting reconciliation or a bookkeeping reconciliation once a week. End of month, I'll be honest, there's a little bit more work because it's just making sure everything's in, and we also, get more bills end of month, as sort of everyone does. So there's a little bit more loading work. I make the payments from the bank accounts. So I guess there's a bit of that. It's probably, we don't do it justice, but we, between us in a busy week, if we spent more than 8 hours, that would sort of be surprising across two of us. So the truth is, we're probably spending between 2 and maybe 5 hours a week at the moment.
And then at the end of month, you'll have a bit more. You may take a 8-hour week or something, 10-hour week.
Yeah, that's right. There's a few more payments to make, for the contractors or, whatever it is, end of month reconciliations. Any SaaS platforms tend to bill us end of month.
But just to make a note, to your listeners who go, well, they're spending 2 to 5 hours. How is that really a distraction from what they're doing elsewhere? Really, the point of it is there might be a time once a month, like Michael said, if PayPal has an issue and you have to go and invest 4 or 5 hours without notice, then that becomes a distraction for us from all the other commitments that we have. And that's really what we want to try and remove ourselves from.
I'm with you on this too, because, we've had other businesses that didn't take up a whole lot of our time. Our time wasn't required, but it did take up a lot of my time thinking about it, or just mind share, right? And so it's on your mind whether you are actively working in it or not. And that's, I think, the distraction you're talking about. We've dealt with that too. And it sounds weird to say because you're not actually actively working on the business, but it's just there, and you'd like it to not be there and have someone else come in and give it the love and attention that it needs to really grow.
Yeah, and we use some instant messaging programs. None of our staff are actually with us, in Australia.
Yeah.
And we use instant messaging to sort of message questions or answers throughout the day. So that can become it's not a distraction, but a distraction. Someone saying, hey, this, that, whatever, or asking a question, customer service manager might ask something, or analytics guy may say, hey, I've got this new snippet code. Can you put it on such and such page or whatever?
I'm trying to think of what skill someone needs to have coming into this and what would be kind of interesting add-ons. So, they'd need to have, I'd say, at least a basic, but probably more ideally an intermediate understanding of Facebook marketing. Or if they don't themselves, they need to bring someone in that does have that or does have some experience with Facebook.
So I would like to think we've got some experience with Facebook, but the truth is where there's at any one time there are literally hundreds of ad variants running, and we certainly don't do that. We don't look at Facebook, we maybe look into our Facebook platform once a month. What we've just been fortunate is been finding ad people who are dedicated, who are trustworthy, who actually run that for us, and we've paired them up with graphic designers who just keep creating graphics and sending it to them. That sort of thing.
So you've got the creatives covered by graphic guys. So are all those people included with the business? Those contractors are coming with it?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So your system for marketing on Facebook is going to come with it.
Correct.
Anyone who buys this is going to understand Facebook in the short term. But I don't have to go find my own creatives guy. That's because ads constantly have to be redone and okay, great.
The whole process of the ad guy talking to the designer and that whole system is its own ecosystem. They deal with it and they just push it out without having to interrupt us. These days,
I think, listen, there's the skills that Gary and I have that we don't let other people do on our behalf is access to the bank accounts and access to the payment section of PayPal. Our customer service guys have access to PayPal for customer service, but not to actually make payments to suppliers. So, we're protective over the actual cash going in and out. So that's it's not a skill, but that's something that we don't outsource.
Sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
People are familiar with paying suppliers. If they are familiar with online banking, these are things that they're going to need to do on a higher level basis. But there are skills I think that add to it. So if they are great at Facebook, or if they've got experience at setting up campaigns and running with them on Instagram, or They deal with buying and selling Facebook pages on a regular basis. They're good content marketers or brand ambassadors. They're in the gaming space, or they have other businesses in the gaming space. These are all, great add-ons that I think would allow you to expand it outside of what you guys have done with your skill sets, right?
Yeah, that sort of thought process, like you'll do better than us. Like that's the truth, because you'll know that area better than we do. That's sort of the point. It's all there now. Like you can only improve on it by adding more attention or experience to a skill set. I would say, and it's up to the buyer, use the contractors that we've got at least for a month to at least know what they're doing, and whether you choose to keep them or you're better at it is totally up to you. Some good skills in understanding numbers, I think, is good, or analytics, or how to test for conversion optimization is good, like how to know, conversion optimization might be where a button is on the screen.
Yeah.
And sort of understanding that stuff's good. Certainly understanding
that we have outsourced contractors that deal with analytics that feed that information back to us now. So, they might say, well,
but an owner that knows this,
yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah,
absolutely. Going to be dedicated and passionate.
Cool. All right, let's talk about some additional information. We talked earlier on that you guys are not interested in staying in the e-commerce space, so I'm guessing that would open you up to committing to a non-compete in the niche and regarding apparel in the niche.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. No issue with that at all.
And then as a buyer, I want to make sure that I felt fully supported in buying this business and making sure that we're able to maintain and continue to smoothly transition the Facebook advertising platform. That's something that comes along with it, right? How much support are you guys offering to a new buyer?
Yeah, so we'll certainly hand over full platform. It's not just, hey, now you take over, you set up your own ad account and start doing it. It's just, you can have our ad account. We'll just change our credit card out for your credit card sort of thing. So the buyer will get everything we've got, right down to the Google Apps account. You can have it all. In terms of support, sort of fortunately for Gary and I, we have a team that runs things for us, so you get all those, so that's sort of good. But
they probably know more about parts of the business than we would do. We have process docs on, I'd say majority of the business processes, if not all, that that come with it as well. But in terms of our support, sure, we'll be there to make sure that the buyer feels completely confident that they know how to run this thing.
Yeah, we'll also tell you if there's any nuances with dealing with any of the staff. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but it might be, hey, this person prefers to work these hours, so because they've got a kid or something,
Yeah, well, there's no issue with that. I think that somebody, when they start talking to the customer service team and the suppliers and the managers, they'll go okay, this is pretty easy to understand. Yeah.
Cool. So you guys are obviously, you're going to hand over the staff. You've got SOPs that are in place I think will help with the transition. You guys are willing to be involved, at least for the first 30 days, in helping make sure the buyer gets up to speed. But you don't want to stay on. At some point, you want to end that, right? Because you do want to focus your time on the other business. So you wouldn't be willing to stay on long-term for money or anything and work in this business. You'd like to get out of it within 30, 60, 90 days, something like that, right?
Look, I think the key point is that we want to make sure that anyone that buys the business, as if we were on that side of the fence, wants to make sure that it's not like they have to cram within a week and then it's but I forgot to ask this.
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere. We're here. We're accessible. We also have Skype. We also have email. We have a phone number. There's no issue with that. I think our goal would be to make sure that they feel within the first sort of month they understand so much about the business that they actually don't want to talk to us and they want to just go run with it.
That happens a lot too. I think it's good for buyers to clarify how much support they're getting, but to ask for more than they probably actually need. And that happens a lot where they're like, I want this, 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 and this. The seller agrees to it. And then they come back and they go, oh, yeah, no, 2 weeks in, I'm up to speed. I'm good, right? So, but it's good to ask for more just in case. That's a good, I think, negotiating tactic from a buyer's perspective.
Yeah, we sold one of our B2B businesses about 3 months ago now, and we agreed to a 60-day handover, and we stopped hearing from them after I think it was 10 days.
Yeah.
Every now and then there's a check-in, hey, how are you guys going? But this business was set up to be run with teams, with an outsourced team. So I think we made everyone document everything they do from when they started, in terms of processes. So it is a good handover. We're not afraid to say, yeah, sure, we'll give you support. There's no issue. I think the buyer's going to run out of things to ask us fairly quickly, though.
Let me ask you this. Now, I know obviously 100% cash straight up offer would be ideal. It'd be ideal for you. It'd be ideal for us. Are you open to, because we've seen this before, where I want to make sure the training happens. Let's say I'll pay 70% up front and I'll pay another 30% in closing on 60 days. Or, I want to do 60% up front and I'll pay 10% over the next 4 months to get up to 100%. Are you guys open to that?
Listen, it's not generally something we're comfortable with, but the point is we actually think it's a cheap buy for what it is and the opportunity that's there. But we also appreciate, we're living in the planet Earth. It's not like the buyer's around the corner and can come knock on our door at midnight and say, hey, this is broken. So, we're certainly open to something as long, we're not going to take anything that's sort of oppressive on us, but we're open to something if that makes a buyer more comfortable.
Gotcha. Yeah, normally these types of things are just about negotiating risk, right, and trying to find something that works for both parties and gets everyone paid. It's not like I want to pay, I'll give you 30% of what you're asking for. No, that's not.
Yeah, no. And as long as, it's done right, it's in escrow, that's all fine.
All right, well, let's do a quick wrap up. Now, the niche is e-commerce apparel. It's specifically focused on the gamer industry, as I talked about before. It was built in May 2014. Monthly revenue is about $180,000 a month. Expenses are $149,000. Net profit of $31,000 a month. It gets anywhere from 500 to 600,000 page views per month. It's a relatively new business. It sells worldwide, but it gets a good amount of customers out of the U.S. You guys are manufacturing in China. You have the manufacturer basically drop ship it around the world to all of your customers. You have another business that you're looking to consolidate down to, sell this one off so you can really focus your efforts on the other business, which you think has great opportunity for you, and you're looking for someone to come and take over your baby and build it up to the next level. So if you guys could give me, in the next 30 to 60 seconds, what would be your best pitch on why someone should buy this site?
I think it's a no-brainer. I really do. I think it's one of those businesses you can come in, you can see very transparently everything is being unbelievably documented, from the financials to the systems. The team, every contract has been with us more or less since the start. There's a lot of stability there, trust built up. We have a lot of data, a lot of intel. We have a huge database, a huge customer audience within Facebook. We have so much leverage to take it to the next level. And I think that for somebody coming in that wants to make good money and that wants to make even more money, the opportunities within the business really are people will look and go, dude, you should just keep this. And it's a regretful sale. We just want to focus on one thing. Every good entrepreneur tells you, that is a line. So we will. And I think somebody's going to grow it into something really, really awesome.
Awesome. Gary, Michael, really appreciate it. If anyone's interested in this, again, the listing number is 40235. If you're watching this video over at empireflippers.com on the listing page and you want more information, including everything, you want to peek under the hood, get all the details, go ahead and pay the deposits up in the right-hand corner, and then we'll give you all the information to help you make your due diligence and buying decision. If you're watching this on YouTube or elsewhere, there'll be a link. You can click on that and go over to the listing page and get more details about the site, about the business, and see if it's something that would work for you. Again, guys, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Thanks, Justin.
Good.